Hello and a very warm welcome to the brand new edition of Policy Watch. I'm Kriti Mishra. Today we'll analyze government's decision to liberalize defense aerospace and warships production. The manufacturing of these items will now be covered by Industries Development and Regulation Act. This will not require any license under the Arms Act. As part of the Make in India program, the government encourages the production of defense equipment in the country through various policy measures, giving preference to buy Indian, buy and make Indian for various categories of defense acquisition. And for more on this, I'm joined by Dr. Subhash Chandra Pandey, Special Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Brigadier Rumel Dahiya, former Deputy Director General, Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, and Mr. K. Badrinath, Editor Policy, Financial Chronicle. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, all of you. Dr. Pandey, manufacturing of items of defense, aerospace and warships will now be covered under the Industrial Development and Regulation Act. Now, what are the provisions of this act that would govern the production of these items?
You see, actually it is a misnomer to say it will now be governed by IDRA. If you, to put a little background to it, the Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951 puts defense industries, arms and ammunition and explosives, all this in a broadest term, under the schedule of industries which are required to be regulated by the central government in national interest. Then Arms Act followed in 1959, which also talked about control on arms and ammunition, manufacture, sale, use, everything, all aspects of it. So both are enactments of Parliament. Both have provisions for licensing of arms and ammunition. The objectives of the legislation are different, and the lens with which the applications are to be examined, those are different. And therefore, apparently in public perception, sometimes this misconception arises as if it is with DIPP or with MHA, then could be different perception about what is the government's intent. Basically, ever since 2001, when the defense manufacturing sector has been gradually opened for private manufacturing, in a process of attrition, the items are being taken out of the list of compulsory licensing. And before this circular we issued on press note issued on 1st January, 2014, we rationalized the list with in consultation with Defense Ministry, which clearly identified the defense items which would require license under Industrial Development and Regulation Act, separate category which will require under Arms Act, and even under Arms Act, the licensing authority is the government or any authority authorized by the government. And to that extent also, in sometime in May 17, the MHA had issued a notification under Arms Act, where the DIPP, Secretary DIPP, was authorized under Arms Act as a delegated. So this seems to be a bit confused area to the layman, but the main thrust of this is that, barring very core defense items like aircraft, warships, and some items especially for exclusive defense use, they would require license under IDRA, which means for the remaining IDRA licensing has been dispensed with. But Arms Act licensing has been separately under delegated power of Secretary IPP, is there for items, tanks, arms, ammunition, and for very small arms generally used at individual weapons, those are exclusively still with the MHA. So there has been this broad categorization, and the recent exercise is just a part of that continuing effort. So the net result will be that items of a dual nature, which can be used in civilian areas also, more and more such items are being taken out of compulsory licensing.
Right. Mr. Badrinath, tell me, what were the rules earlier and how would this move ensure further ease of doing business?
See, earlier, if I recall, till the early 2000 also, mostly the defense manufacturing irrespective of what kind of small or large arms or dual use arms, all of them were to be done by the defense PSUs or those of the organizations which have been licensed or authorized to produce. And even till late 2001 and 2002, even large private companies like Larsen and Turbo would not have got a defense manufacturing license for even very few products. Every product is identified because of their sensitive nature, because of the guarded technology, because of their application, the use that we get into and all that. So mostly the applicability part for our frontline forces or for our combat aircraft or for our warships, these are the areas where we used to have very restricted. And we have always had a very conservative policy vis-a-vis defense manufacturing.
Right.
But once the defense manufacturing started opening up, like Dr. Pandey was saying, once that opened up, slowly and slowly we have started opening it up first for the private sector, second for the international players as well as also through joint ventures. And henceforth, now slowly the entire manufacturing base for the defense item has expanded in a big way. The matrix itself has changed for good, because one, it means that your industrial capacities are increasing. Two, new technologies are being acquired. Three, issue is also that your own requirements, because of your threat perception or whatever it is, both on the one side China, on the other side Pakistan, so you have a lot of requirements yourself. Fourthly, that you are also preparing your country for becoming a huge export hub for defense items. So licensing is seen as a restrictive policy situation. So once the licenses are slowly getting out of it, means more and more people can apply, get in, or if they think there is a market for a product or a service, they can happily come in, set up their activities here, and if they want to, they can even go for third country exports. So my guess is, like any of the industrial licensing policies that have undergone a change, now what seems to be done by Dr. Pandey's ministry is that, look, now we have gone of the age, gone are the days only the government will produce or the government companies will produce. Now everyone is welcome, and as your own report was saying, this will give a big boost for Make in India program.
Right.
Because nobody would like licenses, nobody would like to be going through a lot of these procedures and things like that. Well, leave the businesses to do business. And defense has become a huge industry, not only in India, world over. And India is a big, procurement country. And most of our more than 70% of our industrial items are coming in, defense items. Now what we are trying to do is replace imports with a lot of domestic manufacturing and also try to cater to export markets.
Absolutely. So you're talking about self-reliance, and I'll take that question to Brigadier Dahiya.
Yeah, ma'am.
Brigadier Dahiya, India is one of the largest importers of defense equipment, and as he mentioned, that we meet our demands by other countries, through other countries, and more than 60% of it. Now tell me, how important are such steps like opening up of defense production for treading on the path of self-reliance?
I think all these steps, although taken incrementally and in very small steps, one by one, are important. But unfortunately, when we deal with this particular subject in isolation from the subject of placing orders on defense of defense items on the private industry, we find that the end result tends to be very, very modest achievement rather than a big bang achievement. We've been talking about exports. We've been talking about equipping our armed forces by domestically produced equipment. But result, as you see, is not really good. It is dismal in some cases. what's happening is this, that these steps, for example, if you see the difference between press note 3 of 2014 and press note 1 of 2019, it clarifies two things. One, the number of items that have been taken out from compulsory licensing, that's very good. It has also gone ahead and said, for example, in UAVs case, it has said what kind of UAVs don't require license, what kind of UAVs will require license. So similarly, there is a clarificatory aspect of it. And secondly, it is divided into two parts. 2014 was simple part, was single one part. 2019, on the other hand, clarifies it and puts it in two parts. For example, warships, aircrafts and allied things, and other specific equipment which is related to armed forces, for example, the signal intelligence equipment, etc., has been put out of the license. So it's good. I'm not saying that it is bad. It is required, but making the procedures puritanical, making the procedures alone, focusing on procedures alone, and not taking decision on procurements, for example, negates everything. Let me give you an example. Between 2014 and 15, at the IDSA, we held about 14 meetings between the defense industry and the Ministry of Defense, including the procurement wing people. And we came out with huge number of suggestions. Some of them were implemented, to the credit of Ministry of Defense, I must say, they implemented. For example, the licensing period, from 3 years it was increased to 5 years first and 7 years later. What all items could be given, direct orders could be placed directly with the defense, private defense industry players. All these were very good steps, incremental steps. But despite that, certain projects like the aircraft, transport aircraft to be produced by Tatas and Airbus have never seen the light of the day. Now, there could be many reasons why, whether it is the ministry officials who are afraid of taking decisions for fear of CCC, or could be anything else, or could be the political slugfest that takes place, or defense production. The end result is that all these policy changes that are taking place end up being contributing in a very, very small measure.
But you're talking about implementation.
Implementation is something which
and procurement is important.
Secondly, yeah, that is one part. The second part is, let's take all these steps together in one go, rather than one ministry taking small steps now, another ministry taking small steps next. Let's all sit down together and see what are where are the bottlenecks and what needs to be done. And so all of them can sit down together, take a decision, and smoothen up the path of procurement.
Right. Now that we're talking about self-reliance, that takes me to my next question, which is on Make in India. Dr. Pandey, the Ministry of Defense has cleared around 111 military projects worth around 1.78 lakh crore rupees. Clearly, the focus of Make in India initiative is on defense production.
Yes, defense is one of the major areas because of the large public procurement attached to it. But I would like to add that the licensing that we were talking about is only a very small part of the whole chain of manufacturing and supply, and the real problems actually lie post grant of license in actual manner. There are technology barriers in access to technologies, access to critical raw materials, because at the end of the day, defense systems, whether it is weapon systems, defensive system, electronic surveillance system, all these areas, they require very high degree of performance standards, high degree of quality and assurance to the armed forces. And therefore, their trials are also very, very rigorous. The materials have to be heavily ruggedized. So that is a big struggle. It is one thing for any industrialist to come forward and say, I can do it. But the same product that in civilian market will pass with a test level X would require maybe 3x, 5x, 10x level of testing and robustness to pass through the defense customer. So therefore, there are challenges in defense manufacturing, and that is part of the learning for the businesses to manage.
So challenges are there, but there's also a very important point which is of FDI inflows. Now, according to the rules, FDI is allowed up to 49% in the defense sector through the approval route. Now, the government has informed Parliament that between 2014 and 2018, there has been FDI inflow of around 1.12 crore rupees. What measures are required to push FDI inflows in the defense sector?
You see, from the point of view of the Ministry of Commerce or DIPP, it is only the enabling policy framework, whether you are allowing in an automatic route or through a permission route, and up to what extent. Beyond this, as I said, just in case of procurement, post-investment, fructifying those investments is the struggle that the investor has to go through. To what extent he can find competent partners, industry partners. There are a host of other implementation issues, getting proper sites, land, the ground level clearances, and that is why what in the department we are doing is to generally improve the ease of doing business environment, reducing the clearances, time taken in those, and those results have shown that the way we have jumped from 142 to 77 in World Bank ranking. But 77 still means we have far from top 10 to top 5. So there is still a lot of work to do. If we only focus on what has not been done, we would always be discouraged. So it's a work in progress. We wish to bring it down further from 77 to 50, 40, 10, like that.
I'll take that to Brigadier Dahiya. Brigadier Dahiya, we are talking about... Yes, Mr. Badrinath, you wanted to pitch in. Yes,
I
please.
have a point to make here.
Yes.
In the sense that there are two big lobbies in the defense establishment here. One who completely want reliance on the imports. Second issue is the industrial capabilities are just being built right now in this country for defense related equipment, and huge defense ships, or like the warships or the aerospace that you are talking about and all that. Third is the technology aspect. But this is one part of it. Second is that there is always a friction between the import lobbies as well as the domestic manufacturing lobbies, and that will show up in a big way, both on the policy side as well as meeting the requirements. How do you balance out the requirements of the forces as well as what you want here in this country and the commercial interests?
Right. So we're talking about domestic production. Brigadier Dahiya, how important is indigenization of defense production for force multiplication in our defense preparedness and reconnaissance?
You see, indigenization is absolutely necessary if you really want to be a big defense power. Our role globally is increasing because of our rising economy. Our diplomatic footprint will rise. Call on us to be a net security provider in the region.
Yes.
Will also, of course, go up simultaneously. It's a natural sine qua non for that. For that, we need to be a strong military power, not only to look after what Mr. Badrinath was saying, our immediate threat from north and west, but also when we are called upon to help someone else at a greater distance. Now, in no country, only public sector has been able to meet the defense requirements.
Absolutely.
In fact, any country which relies more on the private sector does better. You see, there are certain automatic advantages for a private sector. They can negotiate quietly, they can negotiate fast, take quick decisions and all that. In the government, machinery moves at its own speed, and one person makes a noting which is little contradictory to what is being talked about. Nobody has the power thereafter to remove it, because otherwise that guy will be hauled up subsequently, either because of anti-corruption things and all that, or in front of the parliament. So as a result of which, it's only the private sector which makes quick decisions, can sort of forge alliances or partnerships for getting technology, can hire people from anywhere. You remember a thing that was talked about a lot when Soviet Union was breaking up, and scientists were available for hire in the advanced technology field also. We couldn't hire anybody because some people in the ministry said, oh, how can you pay them more than what I get? Now, this is a typical thing that happens with the governments. Otherwise, we would have taken a march over everybody else in rocketry, in designing engines, and in many fields. But we couldn't do it just because the members of the government at that time said, no, you can't pay them more than us. Now, similar thing, private sector on the other hand would not mind. Mr. Vivek Lal, who was hired from US by Mukesh Ambani's firm that time when they wanted to get into it, they paid him unbelievable sums.
So we're talking about greater private sector participation in defence production.
Greater part, yes, absolutely.
Right.
It's
I'll take that to you, Mr. Badrinath. According to the draft Defence Policy 2018, the government has vision of catapulting India into top 5 defence producers in the world. How does India fire up defence production by using cutting-edge technology?
See, cutting-edge technology is a big issue in the entire defence industry opening up. One is the foreign investment that you are talking or seeking. Second is promoting our own domestic industry that which can contribute. For both the things to happen, technology is going to be the key. What kind of technology? And mostly, the technology gets outdated very quickly, especially in the digital technologies that we are talking about. And mostly now you are going to have digital warfare. So, if the digital warfare is going to be the front, I mean, then you are not going to, sit back and say that, okay, I will fight the 1962 war again. No, that's not the issue. Point here is that one, and also these technologies are not easily available.
Right.
But second issue here is, for some reason or the other, both the domestic industry is not in sync with the DRDO. The Defence Research Development Organization has huge potential and it has done a lot, but still they would like to go for imported technology. And let us on this forum, let's accept that the payoffs are a way of what happens in this industry, especially in the defence industry. And because when we had lots of licensing, there was always they would push for imports. When the imports were pushed for, always there is a give and take. So this is what happened in the 70s, 80s and 90s. And now what is happening is that since you have opened up, one, yes, I agree with him that Brigadier Dahiya, that we have made a very modest beginning. I completely agree. But this is the right way to go about actually. You open up more, make it freer. See, business environment has to be very free. Only then the best potential can be actually realized. For instance, Tatas can definitely make, the aerospace engineering engines. They can do it. But for several reasons, the joint venture with the Airbus is not going through.
So a step in the right direction has been taken up. Dr. Pandey, 2 very specific questions. The government is eyeing a turnover of around 1.7 lakh crore rupees in the defence sector in the next couple of years. And according to a report, even a cut of 20 to 25% in the imports could create around 1 lakh highly skilled jobs. So what are the vistas that are being opened for the MSMEs in the sectors? And also what kind of impact of this move do you see on job creation?
No, any effort of opening industrialization in the Make in India will automatically lead to more of manufacturing jobs. That there cannot be 2 opinions about that. The key challenge is particularly in this defense area of manufacturing. Before any investor puts investment in creating new facilities, new production facilities which require huge investment, is the assurance of a reasonable order in the air. Unlike a civilian market where a white goods manufacturer forecasts the demand coming for ACs, fridge, TV from the general population, it is very difficult for a defense manufacturer to estimate how many orders he can expect in next 5 years, 10 years, and how much that can be amortized in the investment upfront that he has to make.
Right.
So it is that delicate balance that has to be addressed in proper through proper financial structuring of the
Absolutely. So the balance has to be maintained.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that erudite discussion. So revamp policies with the aim of making India a global defense manufacturing hub. That's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.